No, I just talk about the mandatory, obviously, and your laws are different in America to here. But like you say, you accommodate people on social welfare, about the fees and stuff, which is supposed to someone working. But people in this country might be quite threatened having to mandatory work 3 hours and draw on social welfare, that their income and the only income they have at the moment will be threatened. So I don't see how that would incorporate into what you're doing at the moment, and to be more established. How would they be protected? Does that make sense to anyone in here?
Could I just expand on that? The whole idea of, if I go up here, the whole idea of mandatory labour where it might impact on somebody, like for 3 or 4 hours, where it might impact on somebody's social welfare, obviously, I would assume that would be a complete non-runner, obviously. I mean,
so you mean that the state would say, you have a co-op and you make these people work and they're on social welfare, so now we have to reduce their benefit because they have to work inside the co-op? Well, that's why you need a cooperative corporations law, because the interference of the state would never happen in New York. Because the state recognized that we're doing what we're doing.
But can I say 2 things on it? In theory here, Kathleen's point is very valid, right? It's absolutely very valid, so we'd have to state that first of all. But and not walking away from that challenge now, but just parking it, where, let's say, for people who are working or for people who are retired, where that is not an issue. I'm just wondering how people feel about the idea of mandatory labour then, in that context. Would it bind them into the co-op closer? I wonder.
The other thing I want to say about what Kathleen has brought up, though, is the similar challenge to us, which we have successfully avoided because we have no classes of membership. So the state labor department can't come in and say, that discount you gave Kathleen, that's equivalent to pay. Therefore, you owe us payroll taxes on Kathleen and on everyone else in this room. We owe pay. Because we don't have a discount, they can't find anywhere where we're technically paying anyone. And because we can have a work requirement, they can't say, well, you can't have a work requirement because they've allowed us to have a work requirement. So the one way in which I could see you could avoid this is that you don't have a discount. Like, just because someone comes to an organization and voluntarily joins the organization, and the requirements of the organization is that you contribute some time. Make sure there's no way someone could say, well, I found remuneration here. That person, this happened in a lot of co-ops, and that's why a lot of them got scared. They had people called super workers. So you worked 8 hours a month. Well, you got a big discount. You got 25% off. You were a mildly super worker. You worked 4 hours a month. You got 15% off. You were a slacker worker. It didn't work at all. You only got 5%. Well, there you're just laying yourself open for the labor department to come and say, okay, you paid this person this rate, this person this rate, and this person this rate. Because the discount can be seen as you made them work 8 hours, and then you reduce the price of the food. What you reduced it by is their wage. We're considering that their wage. So we feel, and we have a lawyer in Vermont who's written 2 papers about it that we distribute to everyone in the United States who asks us this question. He says, no, as long as you're not, the Parks Food Co-op, it's perfectly clear everywhere what the requirement is. You get no remuneration when you do the work. It's required of everyone. It's equal of everyone. It's 2.75 hours or some increment of that. If you work once every 8 weeks, it's 5.5 hours. So some increment. There's not different levels. So they're not paying anyone under the table. So that's how that is a way. I mean, I think that that is one of the biggest criticisms of mandatory labor in the United States. Is, well, how are you going to escape how are you going to escape the tax authorities or the labor department from coming in and nosing around and saying you're paying these people because you're requiring to work, so it's compulsory, and then you pay them.
You're transparent and you're flat and it's common across the board.
Yeah.
I wonder what would happen, and this now is only by way of discussion, but what would happen if LCG was writing to its 200 plus members, and we're adding about 4 or 5 each week, right? And said, as in from a certain day, right, we're thinking for people who are gainfully employed or retired, just to avoid parking Kathleen's challenge to us, which is a very real challenge, right? But for those other two groups of people, there is mandatory labour as in from a certain date. I wonder, would it scare the horses? Or would it harness, mobilise what is already there and not really being utilised?
I'd say probably do both. You probably lose a certain number, but probably engage the others and get them more active. I mean, Kathleen said, Anne said something about making them feel like members and not customers, which I think is important. I think a lot of our members feel like customers, and it's only if we engage them more and they get to know the running of the place and they get involved in decision making but there would be a fall off, I'd say, as well.
I just wanted to say as well that when you think about it, 2 3/4 hours every 4 weeks is a tiny commitment. It's not as if we're asking people to do, 12 hours a week like some of us are doing at the moment. 2 3/4, and we may not even ask them to do that much. We might ask them to do an hour and a half or 2 hours, and realistically, it's really, really very small. So I certainly would be in favour of it.
Would mandatory labour of the order of 3-4 hours, would that be obligatory for the growth of the cooperative? I mean, that's the question I'm asking myself,
I guess once again, I mentioned, was it 4 or 5 years you survived on people working?
That we didn't have any paid staff for 2.5 years. Yeah.
So I mean, we're not capital rich, so time.
Yeah,
we're going to grow.
Sometimes it's time. You're richer in time than you are maybe sometimes in money.
Yeah.
And sweat equity is an important way to build a business. I mean, Green Hill, all right, so there's a little co-op that we've been helping along in a neighborhood about 1.25 miles from us. And they used a lot of sweat equity to get their building ready. They said, look, we need people that are handy, that are carpenters, can build shelves. We need people that could run wiring. We need people that could help us take this toilet out and put it somewhere else. I mean, it's amazing what people will say, well, I can do that. That's my work credit. Yeah, sure, I can help in this, project doing, if that's what you need for that day. And the thing is, you honor their time. So you make it worthwhile for them to come, and you're organized and you're ready for them to come, and you give them credit for what they do. So if someone comes, like we recently, for example, we're putting in new checkout lanes, and on Wednesday, I guess it was when I was there, one of the IT guys, we had the actual carpet cabinetry up, but we had to put the actual equipment down in the holes and put everything. So one of our IT guys was doing it with a member. The member spent the whole day there. He will be given credit for every hour in 2.75 hour increments, so he might have earned 4, 5, 6 credits that day. Well, that puts him forward 4, 5, 6 months. And he was happy to do it. I mean, it's like, okay, yeah, I'll be there all day Wednesday. Yeah, I'll come 9. They were still there at 6:30. I mean, because it's his co-op. This is like these new stations look wonderful. Everyone's like, oh my God, they're so wonderful, And he was proud of being a part of that. We could have hired someone to do that, but we didn't. We said,
Did you in your
Charlie came.
In your early days, was the mandatory labour requirement, was it more than?
It was more. Yeah, it actually was more.
Of the order of?
I think it was 3 3/4 hours.
Oh, so only that, it wasn't 6 or 7, right?
No. It was always the intention. It can't be burdensome. It can't be that people go, oh my God, no, that's crazy, It has to be reasonable in people's lives to do it, and it has to be people will do more. But some people want to do just their shift. They want to come in, they want to be the cashier, they sit there for 2 hours, they take money, get chat with people, they take the money, they close up, they go downstairs with a partner, they count their money out, they fill out all the forms, they make their deposit, they walk to the bank, they're done. They're done for another 4 weeks. That's it. They like it, it's repetitive, they get to be in the social thing, and that's fine. Right now I'm on the web team, and we're redesigning our website. And it was me and a couple of the IT guys, and I said, well, it's crazy, we can't do this. I mean, I have a lot of other things to do, and you guys have other things to do. So I knew this guy, and I knew he worked for the New York Times. And I said, Jeremy, a member, I said, Jeremy, we're doing this thing, you've always talked about it with me, would you just come and talk to us and see if you want to join the team? Well, he is one of the top digital strategists for the New York Times. I mean, I had no idea he was that important at the New York Times. He's like, sure. He has spent hours and hours and hours with us. He's practically the project manager, and he's brought other members. So the team now is up to about 8 people. There's only 3 paid staff. It's 5 other members. So some people will give more above and beyond, and we give them the money, the worksite credits for it. But some people, that's what they want to do. Like, when we called some of these people up, they're like, oh my God, I've been waiting to work on the website. I can't believe you called me. Yes, please, I'll be on your team. I'll do whatever. So there's a whole range between the people that just want to do that assignment and people who give a lot more. And part of being a paid staff is to identify various people and learn, kind of keep a Rolodex in your head of like, oh yeah, that person does that and that person does that.
And another, as you talk
But
about,
I don't think anyone, like Jeremy isn't saying, oh my God, this is mandatory. I have to give Ann and Martine and Matt, 12 hours of my life every month. He's doing it out of the love of the co-op, that he wants the co-op's website to be this great thing. And he also, he loves the participation of having a member on it.
and I'm just thinking as we talk here, going back to Kathleen's challenge, maybe there's a case to be made for presenting to social welfare, Department of, saying, for our members who are in that category, can you give us an assurance that they won't be penalised for their 2.5 or 4 hours, whatever it is, right? So that they could then, with that assurance, because if you could get that assurance from the department, it would.
So let me understand. Like, let's say there was a soup kitchen here in Limerick, and or charity shops, which we have too, and they depend upon volunteers to go in. So you're saying if someone's on social welfare and out of the goodness of their heart and their ethical principles, they say, I don't have a lot, but I can give my time to prepare a hot meal for other people who actually might have less than me. And the social welfare department finds out that the person spent the day preparing some soup or salad or something, they're going to dock the person because they went.
In theory.
If they're actively available to look for work.
But you don't look for work from the morning, the minute you wake up in the morning to the minute you go to bed at night. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, wow. Yeah, I mean, that.
You want to do volunteer. You have to tell them you do. You can't just go in and do volunteer. They don't perform.
Wow.
And then it depends on who you meet at the
Going back
desk.
to what you were saying about contacting them, but also outside the benefits to giving people those 3 hours, the experience they're going to get in that college.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think, but what we need to do is we need to remove that fear factor and that potential danger for that group of people, for that category, right? To such that they can make the co-op their own as well,
Right.
in every sense of the word.
Obviously we have people in the co-op who get unemployment compensation, they get disability insurance, they get food stamps. We don't have any besides unemployment, I mean, we have very few in the United States cash payments left, quite honestly. We are the original austerity country. But it's never occurred to us, and I don't think it's ever occurred to any of those members who receive that benefit, that they're doing something in violation of the benefit they receive. I mean, it is kind of shocking, you know? I mean, why would you cut someone off from the community they're forming around themselves, you know, and being a part of something? I mean, if they go to the gym, they're supposed to be looking for a job? I mean, you know, like, are they not supposed to keep themselves happy? I mean, I know I'm being sarcastic now, but I mean, I think that the thing is that this is not, you're not coercing them to be a part of this organization. So if they, because membership is open and voluntary, so, you know, I think that it's almost like the social welfare department is kind of saying, but we're coercing them to do something. Like,
well, I should stress that's the theory of the rules at the moment. We're not suggesting at all, certainly we're not suggesting that there is a witch hunt going on or anything like that. But what we do want to make sure is that folks in that category, that they could be an integral part of LCG, it could be just as much theirs as working members, 9 to 5, whatever, or, you know, and indeed folks who are retired, etc. Right? But that's a challenge that we have to address.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to the principles, right? It's equity and equality. When you join a co-op, I mean, besides the fact that you might say I'm on income assistance and I need to have the reduced investment fee, in no other way are you different from anyone else. Everyone who comes in, there's no attachment of their outside life to their membership, you know. So in that way, it's like a wall between one's private life and one's co-op membership.
Yeah.
You know, like your situation outside the co-op is irrelevant to the co-op. The co-op needs your labor. How your financial or work situation is outside the co-op is not part of the co-ops. We don't need to know that. So I think there's like that basic principle of co-ops, and that it's equal and there's equity, and that everyone's doing the same fair share, and it's equal in the sense that no one buys their way out or has more votes than someone else. So I think that it should be encouraged to think they should be, should be encouraged to think about the principles of the co-ops themselves. You know.
I forgot to ask you, Anne, but it'll have a bearing on us here. In a two-parent family, for argument's sake, are both parents required to put in? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, both are. That's probably one of our biggest sticking points. We call it our household rule. It was adopted sometime in the late 70s, and you know, it came from actually impetus from single parents. They said, because we didn't have a household rule, so there was, you know, one of the two partners or spouses was joining, and the other one wasn't joining and wasn't working. And single parents brought the issue to the fore to say, look, I'm a single parent and I have to work, and there's no one to watch my children while I'm here, or there's no way that I could share this work with anyone else. I have to do it. So it's really, you're violating the equity principle here, because people that are in partnered relationships could share the responsibility of the co-op membership or taking care of the kids or whatever, and I don't have that advantage, so I feel disadvantaged. And so that's how it started.
And as well, if we were going to actively go after the 20-year-olds and those in college, etc., and you've got 2, 3, or 4 of them sharing a house, in the Park Slope model, are the 4 of them required to put in time, or?
The way we handle that now, which, you know, has its loopholes and everything, is that understanding that the real estate situation in New York is such that you could be in a living situation with someone for whom you have no relationship at all. You're just ships passing in the night, you know, person had a room to rent, you took them up on the offer, but otherwise you have no, you know, we let people out. They say, no, I have nothing to do with that person. Other households very openly declare that, yeah, I live with some friends and we share in the cooking and the food, so yeah, we all will join, you know. So it goes both ways, but it's kind of the realities for us of the real estate situation. It's almost impossible for a young person to live by themselves in New York.